No mai haere mai. Welcome to session 5 of the long-term plan and waste minimisation and management plan submissions and hearings. So I'll just explain that the meeting is being recorded and will be live streamed on the Council's YouTube channel. In terms of health and safety, if we have to evacuate the buildings, there are the green signs and also out through the main foyer. And there's a defibrillator downstairs if needed. Online participants to keep their cameras on and microphones off unless actually addressing the meeting. And that probably just covers those bits and pieces. So I'll just take apologies now for this session. The Council received apologies from Councillor Billy Mee and Brent Barrett for late arrival, Rolly Fitzgerald for Councillor Fitzgerald for early departure, and Leonie Harpiter. I'm happy to move those, seconded by Councillor Wood. Thank you. Can I take any declarations of interest for this session? Sorry. Oh, sorry. We just need to vote on the apologies. Sorry. If you now vote. And that's carried 12 votes to none. Declarations of interest for this session. Do we have any from councillors? There being none, we'll just move on. And that brings us to our first submitter. And submitters actually have 10 minutes total for each submission. Our first submitter actually is Helen Warboys, who's actually going to submit on both the waste minimisation and management plan and also on the long-term plan. So Helen will have 20 minutes. So please, if you actually want to leave some time for questions, that would also be appropriate. So Helen, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Mayor Helen Warboys, and with me tonight is Hamish Waugh, the GM for Infrastructure, and Lisa Thomas, who is our Senior Policy Advisor. So we're presenting tonight on behalf of the Manawatu District Council, and the purpose of our submission is to draw elected members' attention to the matters that are of shared interest to both of our councils, and to identify opportunities where we might work more closely together and achieve better outcomes for both of our communities. We wish to focus our conversation tonight on the investment associated with Te Tanganui and to offer our support to the City Council in relation to Nature Calls project and the Feilding to Palmerston North Shared Pathway. So the first topic that our submission covers is Te Tanganui, the Central New Zealand Distribution Hub. Manawatu District Council supports the city's proposed investment in this project, recognising the regional scale benefits that it will result in. However, it's critical that PNCC work closely with our council, particularly in relation to planned upgrades on boundary roads such as Kairanga-Bunnythorpe Road, when evaluating options for new roading links in the vicinity of Bunnythorpe and when rezoning land for industrial development on the boundary with MDC. So we ask that Palmerston North City Council involve MDC in confirming the timing of investments to ensure alignment with Manawatu District Council's infrastructure planning as set out in our infrastructure strategy, activity and asset management plans. If this is poorly managed or without sufficient involvement from Manawatu District Council, this may result in the investment being out of sync, significant impacts on commuters and residents, negative impacts on MDC's assets and infrastructure, including our roading network and cross-boundary issues. We also note that we have made a full submission on the draft future development strategy in addition to, and ask that this be considered in conjunction with our LTP submission. Thank you. I'll hand over to Hamish.
Thank you, Your Worship. Number two. In terms of the Nature Calls project, MDC absolutely supports Palmerston North's plan to progress this project. In particular, we support the proposal for the upgraded treatment plant and the dual discharge to land and water. MDC's completed its own wastewater investment over the past decade or so with a very similar land and water dual discharge regime. So we've got many learnings from that consenting and upgrade process, and obviously the subsequent operation of that over the last 6 or 8 years has given us some good learnings as well. So very happy to support and help in that place where we can. The Orua River is a tributary of the Manawatu River, and as such there is a significant benefit in working together for the overall health and well-being of our regional freshwater resources. The proposed $647 million investment is significant, and as I've said before, MDC may be able to help to refine the project and potentially look at some of those costs that there may be some savings in there. In previous discussions with Horizons, MDC has advocated for amendments to be made to the One Plan to better support applications for municipal wastewater discharge to land. And MDC would like to offer its support and collaboration with any future discussions that the city may have with the Regional Council in relation to these matters. They can be challenging, so I'm sure you're aware. And the last point, just in terms of the cycleway, as Helen's mentioned, MDC supports the inclusion of the cycleway into the PNCC draft long-term plan, urges Council to prioritise it through to completion, and to this end, MDC is willing to work closely with PNCC staff as appropriate to help scope and procure this project through to its completion. It is a key link that we've completed the section through to the boundary, and we would love to see it finished for the benefit of both MDC and PNCC ratepayers. And with that, that's the completion of the key points from the long-term plan, and the three of us are happy to take any questions that you may have.
Great, thank you. Councillor Naylor.
Yeah, thank you. My question relates to the comments you made about the Nature Calls and the cost of that, and that you may be able to help us refine the project and potentially reduce costs. I'm just wondering if you're able to expand on that a little bit.
Thank you. Without getting into specifics, I mean, going through that process, I know to date there's been a lot of foundational work done in there, a lot of sort of high-level estimates and cost estimates done. I guess we've probably got the benefit of hindsight on many of these things in terms of the consent conditions that are likely to be imposed, the One Plan requirements, the land area needed, the details like buffer plantings and application rates. There's a lot of quite detailed technical stuff in there. Which, if there's anything that we can do to help in that space to help the process and potentially reduce costs as a result of lower land areas or the way that it's done, then open to that conversation.
Okay, thank you for that.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Similarly, you've made a comment in the Fielding to Palmerston North shared pathway about being willing to work with us to scope and procure the project through to completion. Can you expand on what that means, please?
Thank you. So obviously PNCC has its own in-house roading and engineering team, as does MDC. So again, it's very similar to Councillor Naylor's comment. You know, we've done our section. We've sort of done a lot of the heavy lifting in terms of working through with the likes of Kiwi Rail and NZTA in terms of the alignments. So the spec, the other related parties and all the hoops we had to jump through. If there's anything we can do to help scope that in terms of what is actually required in terms of a functional pathway, it doesn't mean putting sort of gold-plated new paths adjoining the roads and the like. It could be some I guess some more affordable options to give you a sort of a practical outcome there. So it's really having that conversation and working through what that might look like.
So in terms of reflecting on the bit that you've done and how much that cost and the plans that we've got, do you think there is room there to rescope that? Mayor Helen is nodding, yes.
I guess the only comment I would make is that you know, we've taken an approach to sort of get it done. A lot of it's been done in-house as opposed to sort of externally sort of consultant designed and the like. So I mean, our completion cost for our section was about 1.2 million. And admittedly, there's a number of other complications in there in terms of river crossings and road crossings and the like. So it's not a straight apples with apples, but I think the indications are 13 to 23 million. I'm sure there's some dollars and cents that could be looked at in there, but again, the offer's there to be part of that process if there's a need or a willingness to do that as part of a collaborative approach.
Okay, thank you for that.
Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Hamish. Could you build our bit?
Could we?
You don't have to answer that. I'm being facetious. But you know, how long was that part to Campbell's Road to Fielding?
All up through there, it's about 4.5 kilometres.
Right, and do you know how long our bit is? 5.
Yeah.
Right.
I think picking up Councillor Bowen's point, you've got a stream crossing which is probably more
Yeah, and I
difficult.
realise that. Yeah, it's not straight apples for apples. But even if it was apples to lemons, I mean, there might be
Happy to collaborate on that from an engineering and project delivery point of view.
Great, thank you, and thank you, Mayor Helen, for submitting. It's been great. Thank you.
Yes, great. Thank you very much for your submission. That ends the questions on this particular section. So, Helen, if you want to carry on with your second part.
Thank you. I'm going to hand this one over to Hamish. That very much fits in his department.
Thank you, Your Worship. Right, so again, this is, for those that I'm taking it that the submission's been read, probably the summary for this is that we commend Palmy in terms of a comprehensive document based on a detailed waste assessment to provide an evidence-based approach to targeting the waste streams. We've done ours a number of years ago. It's in that midpoint. We see the work that's been put into this, and it's a really good piece of work. MDC note Palmy's intention to review their waste collection delivery model. We would like to work with yourselves on this review, with possibilities for centralised and/or shared service be fully explored for the benefit of our respective communities and ultimately the environment. MDC notes that there's a clear collaboration opportunities for waste collection and processing to be shared amongst the parties, which hopefully would lead to some cost efficiencies and the feasibility of greater diversion of various waste streams from landfill. I believe Grant Smith would probably agree with me on some of those points from previous discussions. We just wanted to take a point to note the investment that Manawatu District Council's made in our resource recovery park, which may or may not be on the radar of any of the elected members from Palmy. Essentially, what we've done is we've proactively invested in our Fielding-based wastewater treatment plant, which is also the new location of our resource recovery centre. And then collectively, that area of land, we've created beginnings of a centre of excellence for what we've called the Manawatu Resource Recovery Park. And so that concept of a centre of excellence refers to the synergies generated between the co-location of like-minded public and private sector industries, co-locating a number of private and public waste minimisation facilities. It's a rurally based location. Manawatu District Council owns sort of essentially all of the land involved and all the land around it. So that gives us a lot of scope in terms of consented activities and designations within that area. And so it's, from our point of view, it makes a massive contribution to our aims and goals in terms of waste minimisation and waste diversion. We'd like to acknowledge the support we've had from the Palmy staff and officers through the initiatives that we've sort of been working together on, and the active participation in the information sessions, specifically targeting things like food and plastic waste streams. There are several opportunities for processing Palmy waste streams, specifically food, plastic, and construction and demolition, C&D waste, via our existing and or proposed facilities at our resource recovery park. These opportunities, as I've said, they're close to Palmy in terms of being on the right side of things. They're not that far away, and it is an area that we've got outside of town with a large footprint, with no sort of immediate neighbours to have any adverse effects on. So Our view is that the Palmy Waste Minimisation Plan excellently aligns excellently with the following opportunities, which is the leveraging off the park that we have to incorporate some of the thinking of your waste management minimisation plan. Work together to develop solutions for materials that have neither no current pathway to diversion, for example, contaminated paper and recycled plastics with no market value. So some of these things, we don't have all the solutions for all this, but I think it's a 1+1=3 kind of model, and that's working together collaboratively with other local government and potentially central government partners, but also the private industries that we're working with. They bring with them a high level of sort of intellectual grunt as well as external capital, which is a great thing when you're not trying to reduce the ratepayer spend. And we would like very much so through your waste minimisation plan, as we say, to explore shared waste service provision methods that could be done through collaboration between Palmy and the Manawatu for the benefit of our joint community, our individual ratepayers, and the wider environment as a whole. So, again, it's probably more of a technical one, but happy to take any sort of questions or see that more fulsome.
Yeah, thank you. Mayor Smith, question?
Thanks, Hamish. So just at present, does the district outsource your recycling rubbish collection? How does that all work at the moment?
Yep, so at the moment we have an outsourced contract with a private firm. So they run the collection trucks for refuse and the recyclables. We've got curbside collection of glass and the co-mingle, so the non-glass recycling. Looking to introduce food waste in the following, not next financial year, but the one after, all going well. And they also run the transfer station, the key one in Fielding, plus also the smaller rural ones that we have. But at the moment, that's a private contract. There's a couple of years to run on that in terms of the first or the next rollover provision. So there's an opportunity there to sort of see what collaboration might look like with the city.
Okay. And number 2 here on your conclusion around contaminated, products like plastics and paper, always a difficult one, but what was your thinking there, or potential solutions?
Yes, so part of the benefit, particularly if I start with the contaminated paper and the like, part of the model of co-location of different waste activities and bringing it together is we've also got the wastewater treatment plant that produces a range of liquid and solid waste. So we've got a biosolid product, if you like. So as part of the whole circular economy and trying to manage the full waste stream, looking at our biosolid, what can we do with that? What are the composting options? We already put it through an anaerobic digestion facility, so it's the residual sort of biosolid. Working through composting options, potentially vermiculture options as well. And so things like contaminated paper is a good organic source that could be incorporated in one or more of those activities, combined with green waste, combined with biosolid, to produce a product which is either clean and ready to use, or at a better quality and therefore able to be used in different applications.
And what about the plastics?
So plastics, we've been working quite productively with 2 firms, one being Future Post, and the other one being Plasback. So Plasback have got the sort of rural farm waste soft plastics collection, and the guys at Future Post are looking at a range of different plastics that they can then reuse into different products. So we've got reasonably advanced discussions with both of those parties around potentially establishing a site down at the Resource Recovery Park. And again, it's that co-location which brings some of the synergies in there together. So,
And did you say worm farms as well? You were looking at some worm farms?
we're just in the early stages of putting together a trial of different of a worm farm concept, vermiculture. So looking at sort of different blends of biosolid, green waste compost, as well as that cardboard and contaminated paper and the like. So we've got some early work to do there. So we're probably 6 to 12 months from having a solution, but it's certainly the thinking that we have as an organisation around providing not just for our district or our towns, as you like, but the key thing in the waste business is the the volume sort of
Yeah, it's the
economies of scale.
feedstock, isn't it?
So if we can do it and we can get others to work with us, then it kind of it all starts to add up. So,
And you're talking to our people?
sorry.
You're talking to our officers?
Absolutely, we are, yes. Yep, I know you've got a few in the room that we've been having discussions with, so, yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Look, I've just got one question really. It's just in terms of, I guess, we've kind of sort of got to at the present time. Do you have any concerns about, like, I guess, the scalability of what you're actually doing and the potential going forward for perhaps, you know, some collaboration? Is there any kind of sort of thoughts around a need for scale up?
The thinking is, in terms of our resource recovery park, is that we've essentially oversized it, if you like. So it's not just built for the Manawatu district, if you like. It is able to be working with our neighbours, different waste streams, different volumes, different processes, but I don't see the size of our facility being a limiting factor in terms of working with the city across a range of different waste streams, and we would certainly like to do that.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you very much for your submission, and we'll get into deliberations in late May. Thank you. Thank you very much for your time. Right, the next, I'm just going to go out of order just a little bit. If I can just get Manawatu Estuary Management Team, Brett Russell, up to the table, please. That's submission 1123. Thank you, Brett. Yeah, just press the button on the right-hand side. You'll see the light. That's it.
Thank you so much. It's a really great pleasure for me to be here, and I do appreciate the opportunity to make a submission on behalf of the Manawatu Estuary Management Team in terms of your long-term plan. Our management team comprises community members, hapu and concerned community groups, including Manawatu Estuary Trust, Forest and Bird, Foxton Beach Progressive Association Incorporated, Wildlife Foxton Trust, Save Our River Trust, Four-Wheel Drive Association, Rakawa. I should mention that I'm from Foxton Beach myself, and we interface on a regular basis with statutory managers who look after who are responsible for managing, I guess, the Ramsar site, the Manawatu Estuary, and also Foxton Beach Coastal Reserves. We're very busy at the moment updating the Manawatu Estuary Management Plan, which is a 10-year document that covers the period 2015 to 2025, and also the Foxton Beach Coastal Reserves Management Plan. But we're very concerned about the issues and options for the resolution which directly impact the environment of our Manawatu Estuary Ramsar site and the Foxton Beach Coastal Reserves to try and ensure the biodiversity it supports is thriving. However, in many cases, the environment, bird, fish, insects, fauna and flora are under extreme pressure and disappearing. Furthermore, in our journey, we work together to seek not just to resolve the environmental challenges, but also, particularly with help from local iwi, the restoration of the mana of the people in the Manawatu River, the Ramsar site and the Foxton Beach Coastal Reserves. That's a real big challenge for us, and of course what goes into the river upstream affects the quality pardon me, of the water downstream in our neck of the woods. The Manawatu River is highly polluted. This is largely due to runoffs from surrounding dairy farms, but towns, including Palmerston North, on the river's edge, also contribute to this pollution with sewage and industrial waste. Immediate priorities for our team, which coincide with priorities developed by the Manawatu River Leaders Accord, include things like protecting habitats for native birds and fish together with flora and fauna, also reducing nutrients and bacteria in the river from point source discharges. And I must say it was my mistake. I'm not sure why I restricted my comments to point source discharges when I should have included your responsibility too for any diffuse discharge to the river from the city. any prompt and meaningful actions that you can undertake to implement to significantly reduce the impact of sewage and industrial waste together with stormwater and any potential diffuse discharge from the city boundary on the water quality of the Manawatu River would be greatly appreciated by all our stakeholders and community. And thanking you in anticipation of some good news in this regard in the not too distant future. I should say now that my discourse Rehematangi, I inadvertently forgotten that this was the responsibility of the previous submitters, the Manawatu District Council. So I would like to just say please delete or ignore that information there, which was just some bonus I thought might be useful from a climate change perspective. But I just want to say that we're working hard to committed to seeing our Ramsar site, the Manawatu Estuary, is given the protection, support, resources and the priority it deserves. And thank you so much for the opportunity to make this submission to you.
Thank you very much, Brett. Do we have any questions from councillors? Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, Brett. Just your views on the Horizons flood plain area, which is grazed and just goes straight into the river by dairy cows. Just any comments on that?
I think it's no secret that the activity of dairy cows in the river hasn't always been to the advantage of environmental protection and best management practice for the river. I just think that that's something that needs to be monitored, and liaison should take place, I guess, with the dairy farmers concerned, so that they can take steps to perhaps make other measures to restrict cattle from going into the river at any point.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for submitting.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett, for your submission. There are no other questions in the queue, so thank you very much, and we'll deliberate at the end of May. Thank you. Right, the next submitter is Lisa Thomas and Nina Mercer from the Manawatu Skating Club, and it's submission 574. If you'd like to come forward, please. You have 10 minutes, just press the button on the right-hand side. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. I've moved from my day job to my evening job now. So my name is Lisa Thomas. I'm an ex-New Zealand representative roller skater, and I'm coach to 3 incredible young women who are also now New Zealand representatives. And to my right is Nina Mercer, our club president, and we also have Chris Morgan up in the stands. So Nina is mother to one of our other New Zealand representatives as well. So thank you for the opportunity to present our submission on behalf of the Manawatu Skating Club to the Palmerston North City Council's draft long-term plan. Our club submission relates to Council's proposal to demolish and replace Arena 5, and in particular Bell Hall on Muldegrave Street. As outlined in our submission, our club has a very long association with this venue. We hire this venue multiple times a week for club trainings, private lessons, discos, learn to skate classes, and private bookings such as birthday parties and community sessions for community groups. Our club appreciates the close relationship we have with the Central Energy Trust Arena staff and the current level of access we are granted. Our club understands the need to replace ageing facilities that are no longer fit for purpose, and we also appreciate that the Palmerston North City Council has been working with our club through the planning phases for this project. Our primary concerns are that once the new venue is constructed and Bell Hall is demolished, we may not have the same level of access to the new facility as we currently do to Bell Hall, due to having to compete with more sporting codes and due to the reduction in the number of stadiums available for booking. We're also concerned that Council will raise the hire rates for the new stadium. We only have to look at how much it currently costs to hire Arena 3 compared to Bell Hall. We also need to be able to store our hire skates and other equipment at the same venue that we use to run our public sessions and learn to skate classes. There are too many skates for us to be able to move them from venue to venue. And the revenue that we raise through our public sessions is essential for us to cover our costs and to be able to subsidise our club practices for our members. Our Learn to Skate classes are essential to grow our club membership and also provide an important learning environment for our up-and-coming coaches. The Manawatu Skating Club seeks the following assurances from the Palmerston North City Council in relation to the proposal to demolish and replace Bell Hall, Arena 5. The first is that we'll continue to be able to book the new Arena 5 venue for roller sports, including for our Learn to Skate classes and public discos, at the same times and frequencies as we do currently for Bell Hall. And the second is that the Manawatu Skating Club be granted a discounted rate to book the new Arena 5 venue, being at the same rate that we currently pay for Bell Hall. And the third, there's a plaque within Bell Hall that's dedicated to Avis Berry, or Avis Bell. She was a coach of our club, and she was tragically killed in a car accident on her way to a competition. And that's of significance to our club, so either that it be displayed somewhere in the new venue or gifted to the club. I'll now welcome any questions.
Thank you. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you. Thank
Sorry,
you, Mr.
yeah.
Chair. Sorry, that was me pressing a button, not you. Thank you both for coming in this evening and speaking to the submission. Lisa, you said that you recognise that Council needs to deal with ageing facilities that are no longer fit for purpose. I wanted to check in with you about how Bell Hall is no longer fit for purpose for you.
It is fit for purpose for us. I mean, I guess I was thinking of this on my way over actually, and what I would say if I got a question like this. It's a little bit cold. You know, the heating it leaves a little to be desired, and I think there's a few broken windows up high that kind of let the air in. But other than that, the floor itself is still, functions well. The spaces in the rooms that we use. I don't know if Nina, if you've got any thoughts.
Yeah, so what we use it for primarily, it is fit for purpose. In terms of our international skaters who are competing at Oceanias and World Cup and so forth, and even nationals, we actually need to use Arena 3 for the floor size because Bell Hall's not an international size rink.
So I just want to be clear about this. So when you say it's an ageing facility that's not fit for purpose, that's not your view?
No, I took those words from the draft long-term plan.
So
I understand that's the rationale for the demolition and replacement of the venue, is that it's an ageing facility compared to some of the other arena venues.
So of the other people, the other codes that use that space that you're aware of, is it not fit for purpose for those people? Are you able to comment on that?
I know Roller Derby use it as well. We run, we do roller artistic skating as well as speed skating, so we use it for both. I think it's used for book sales and various bits and pieces.
Sorry, that's not working. So we don't have direct contact with any of the other codes, a little bit with Derby, and as far as I know, for some of their training it is well suited. They also use Arena 3 for some of their training. The bonus of Bell Hall and Barber Hall being two separate halls is that you can have two codes using the halls at the same time. We're worried that will be lost. We also need halls that don't have big pillars down the middle for us to skate safely, so we need to be, ensure that we're part of that planning process for any new facility so that the people building them do know what we need in terms of safety for our skaters.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering my questions, Mr.
Councillor Johnson.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Lisa and Nina. So you said in your submission that you're concerned that the venue hire rates will be considerably more than what you're paying currently. Have you already had an indication of what the venue hire rates would be, or is that just a worry that you have?
That's just a worry we have. We haven't had any indication. I guess it's an assumption that if it's a shiny new building that you'll have to pay for it somehow, and that might increase our rates. We're very well looked after by the council with our rates for Bell Hall, so we do appreciate that. It's a very expensive sport and it's a very niche sport, But I think it's really important to notice that note that we actually have the strongest team in New Zealand in terms of artistic roller skating. We have the most people competing at Oceania Champs and the most people competing at Worlds most of the time.
So in the same vein, when you say you're worried about whether you'll have the same level of access to the new facility, is that because you're concerned it will only effectively be one space and therefore there'll be half the number of bookings? Or is there some other reason behind that?
I think part of the reasoning there was in the documents it was indicated it would be a multi-purpose facility, and I've heard things like badminton, gymnastics. There's other sporting codes that don't currently use Bell Hall that may then start using the new facility because it will be more fit for purpose for them than the current Bell Hall is for us.
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay, thank you for that.
Great, thank you. Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks. Congratulations on the success of the club. It's amazing what you learn in some of these submissions. The floor, it's a hard floor, isn't it? So from memory, it's a concrete on it, isn't it? And then I've seen you all skating in Arena 3, and that's a hard wood floor. So you can go on multiple different surfaces, is that right?
Yes, we predominantly skate on wood and concrete. Sprung floors and plastic coated floors don't work for us.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
Timaru's got a facility too, haven't they? And that's concrete or a hard surface.
Yeah, not fun to land on, but essential for our sport. I grew up in Wanganui, so we used Jubilee Stadium, and we also had a Hattrick Street rink, which is similar to Bell Hall.
Yeah, and my understanding of the plan is it's not we must demolish and then establish another arena of 5. It could actually they could both coexist.
That would be fantastic for us, but obviously we're not the ones paying for it, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Thank you.
Sorry, can I just note that any venue that we do have, we will need to store our skates, and also the public sessions that we do offer our community a safe, really affordable option on a Friday night for skaters, for families to come to.
Great, thank you, Nina and Lisa, for your submission, and they'll be taken into account when we go through deliberations. Thank you. The next submitter is Bobby Murray on behalf of Denial Mudgeway, and if I just welcome you up to the table, please. And that's submission 608. Thank you, Bobby. You have 10 minutes. Oh, sorry. Just press the right-hand button on yep.
There we go.
You're ready to
Okay,
go.
thank you so very much. My name is Bobby Murray, and I'm simply reading the letter from my friend and my employer, Denial Mudgeway. We want to start by setting the tone by saying that we appreciate greatly the support that the City Council has given to the stomach over the years. I've spoken to many people in many cities, and they have nothing like the stomach. So this is really to let you know our fear if that support and that full staffing disappears. But our compliments and our thanks for the work that has gone into supporting the stomach. To whom it may concern, my name is Denial Mudgeway. I'm a 36-year-old adult male living with severe scoliosis. I experience all the related stress, anxiety, and depression that comes with chronic pain. In 2020, I was isolating in my flat. In 2021, I hired my current support person, whose primary focus was centered on helping me to take control of my life and to start enjoying my life again. I had done some drumming in college, so in 2021, I picked up my drumsticks and we headed to the stomach. These have been my experiences since that time. The outreach coordinator at that time was Abby Symes. Abby was very welcoming. Abby would come in and jam alongside me, Abby on the guitar and me on the drums. Now I'm jamming with a friend. Soon, with Abby's encouragement, I was drumming every Wednesday. So Wednesday has become the anchor of my week. Lunch at Jacko's, and then 2 hours of jamming. Very therapeutic. Abby invited me to play a few songs in a showcase. How scary. How exciting. My parents came to that show. It was the first time my father had ever seen me drumming. I was proud. He was proud. This is life-altering stuff that I'm sharing with you. So I did about 4 or 5 showcases where the majority of the musicians, like me, live with disabilities. Then I was asked to do an opening for Epidemic and Thunderfoot, growing in my self-confidence. Sarah invited me to volunteer working the front door at the concerts. This was great because now I'm part of an awesome crew working at the Stomach. Currently, I'm learning light theory, and I've given a go at working the lights, and I'm really enjoying this. I have rhythm. Shout out to Nigel for giving me a crack at recording. I was nervous, yet I gave it a shot. This led me to engaging Sam Shepard now, who's giving me instruction once per fortnight. I want to share my experiences at the Stomach because it's enriched my life in ways that are hard to express. Some might say it saved my life. Please, I beg of you to do everything possible to support this awesome crew by retaining and funding the Community Outreach Coordinator. There must be dozens of other musos who have been positively impacted by the position who have not taken the time to write you. And just as importantly, dozens more who can benefit from keeping the Stomach strong, supported, and fully staffed. Rock on, Denial Mudgeway.
Thank you very much, Bobby. Happy to take questions. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Bobby and Denial, for coming in. I just wanted to ask, and Bobby, I don't know if you'll know this for Denial, so we'll see how this one goes, but how Denial was aware of the Stomach and knew to access that service.
He shared with me that at one point in time, several years back, he was attending a vocational base, and that vocational base visited the Stomach once. So he was aware of it, but he wasn't going on a regular basis at that point.
Okay. And do you know how Denial was able to make that original contact to go along and have a go with the drumming?
He said, the Stomach, I did the research.
And that was
We
it.
were there.
You were there.
Yeah.
And found that to be a place that suited your needs.
A brilliant place that suited his needs, absolutely. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you for coming in and sharing that with us today.
No other questions from councillors? Bobby and Denial, look, thank you very much for your submission. A very inspiring journey, I think, that you've articulated for us today and showing the positive impacts of a council facility. So thanks for coming.
Absolutely. I wanted to say at the beginning, and I didn't know if it was appropriate, that my wish is that Denial submission is heard with the same gravitas as the $1 million decisions that you'll be making.
Absolutely, and we'll deliberate well on late May. Thank you. Thank you for coming in. Thanks, Denial. Right, the next submitter is Margaret Tennant from the Palmerston North Heritage Trust, and it's submission number 1037. Welcome, Margaret.
Well, thank you, councillors, for coming out of an evening to give submitters a chance to make their views known to you. The Palmerston North Heritage Trust, although its main remit is archives, we don't just bang on about archives at these sessions. Our members belong to a whole range of heritage organisations for which we're not actually speaking tonight, but it includes a couple of teachers from secondary and tertiary levels to Manawa Museum Society, Kate Birch Advisory Committee, the ARANZ, the Archives and Records Association, Historic Places Manawatu, local genealogists and military history. So although we're not speaking for them, I think we do have quite a wide interest that goes well beyond the archives. First of all, we want to congratulate the Palmerston North City Council staff for taking on board a more inclusive approach, I think, to heritage strategy. It was a real delight to see mention that of how important history is to identity, belonging, the need to celebrate it, and the way in which it contributes to the city's character. And that this included Rangatani or Manawatu, the development of the cityscape, our many and diverse communities, military and railway history. So these sort of things are all important, and the way they're presented is important. I find it astonishing, for example, that a city that's so important as a transport hub has so little interpretation of its history as a railway junction, for example, and the development beyond that to a wider sort of transport hub. So we're concerned with archives, and both in its paper, digital and orally recorded forms. We're aware that the archives include the City Council archives and the Community Archive as users of these archives, and many on our committee are practising historians who do actually research the history of our community and move between those two kinds of archive. They reinforce each other. Storage is now at a critical point, and the actual use of them is becoming quite difficult. We often have to wait for days before you can actually get a file. So really archives probably ideally would have a properly designed building, possibly in a city library, but even in a separate facility, which, who knows, could even include storage for Te Manawa items, because I understand there's storage problems there. Manawatu Heritage, the digital archive, we support funding for this. It's another form of repository. It showcases Palmerston North's history to a very wide audience, and it's, you may not be aware, but many photos of Palmerston North are appearing in lots of history books that are not specifically about Palmerston North, but they're finding this such a good resource and so easy to use that, like, there's a history of the Depression in New Zealand, which had quite a lot of photographs from Manawatu Heritage, which tell the rest of New Zealand that Palmerston North is an interesting place with an interesting history. But the information on that digital archive needs to be accurate, and this huge amount still need to be uploaded with this accurate information. The library, we strongly support earthquake strengthening. For us, the library is heritage central. It's fundamental to what we do. Ideally, we'd like to see it strengthened in a way that retains as many possible of its heritage features, but we realise it will probably need to be reconfigured. In terms of heritage signage, we strongly support this so that Palmerston North can become, say, like Napier or Whanganui, that visitors to the city can walk around and see why this place is interesting, what it looked like before, what the street was like, what it's like now, and what was there. Even the railway land, you know, things were there once. You could have photographs of what they were, and it could be compared with what it is now. And Te Manawa we also mentioned in our submission, because we regard that as another very important heritage interpretation facility, if you like. It's a multidisciplinary facility. It's got art, history, science, as I'm sure its own submission says. But if all three are to be interpreted adequately, they need space. Otherwise, you've got three branches of activity none of them really being able to do their job well. And I must say we have felt that heritage has been a poor relation in Te Manawa in recent years. The current director, I think, is changing that through operational decisions like the actual appointment of a heritage curator, which is a big plus. But this is the only place of its kind where our history is going to be told. And we do have some concerns when we sometimes hear, oh, well, such and such, oh, that can go into Manawa. There's a danger that Te Manawa will be used for, or seen as a place where material which does not relate to the history of this region or community is sort of put because national repositories are now also overloaded. So basically they were our core points, and the rest of them you can read in the submission, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Margaret. The first question is from Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Margaret, and thank you so much for being a champion for heritage. A couple of things there, and I like some of the recommendations. City Heritage Plan. In all your years here in the city, have we ever had one?
I really don't know. City council officers might be able to answer that, but I'm not aware of a separate heritage plan. No.
I know we've got something sort of very much not even a third cousin removed in the arts plan, but my knowledge, I don't think we have ever had one.
No. There's listed buildings and such like, but not
that's
something that includes the whole package.
Question, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I'm getting there. Dedicated heritage planner, you're obviously advocating for that as well.
Yeah, there did used to be, and I'm not sure, I know that not everyone in council agrees with this, but it was always nice to have someone that you could go and talk to and find out what was going on, and if you heard about an endangered building, and it's not quite so clear now that there's someone there one can have conversations with.
Yeah, understand. And final question, just you do touch on it in page 2 around having key sort of national exhibits, or the rugby. You call out the Rugby Museum, maybe the Peter Bush exhibition or collection, as perhaps filling some space where the local history should be. Am I correct?
I think that's probably what's happened now, which isn't to say it shouldn't be there, it's just it increases the argument for a bigger and better facility if you want to keep the Rugby Museum and tell your own story.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Councillor Arnott.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Margaret. Nice to meet you, and I'd like to have a talk with you at some stage. And thank you for being such a champion for the cause. With the Medical Museum and hibernation, what are your views there? Where would you see that ideally being?
Well, that I think does have quite a lot of local items, as my understanding, certainly when I visited it.
Yep, Dr.
So
Anderson.
to me, that could be part of the telling of our local stories, and I think it's a great shame that it's just sitting there packed away right now. So that's where I think one could actually argue a case for it. But there isn't really the space at Te Manawa now, I understand. So.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Margaret, for your staunch advocacy in this space. I wanted to ask you about the various archives that we have, and you advocate strongly there for a facility for them. What would that facility do, and what difference would having that kind of archival facility make to our local historians?
Well, I think if it was purpose built, obviously the records would be kept in a better state. I know there is Archives Central in Fielding, and some of the records are kept there, and that's not actually a very good facility either, actually, and it's full. So from a user's perspective, you either have to go over to Fielding to see something, or you have to put in your order so that someone from the library can go over on a certain day of the week, which means you plan it. You can't make a sort of decision, oh, I'm writing this, I need to check such and such. You have to plan a week or two ahead. So it would be good to have a facility that was perhaps closer to Palmerston North and purpose-built both for the protection of the archives and for convenience of use.
Okay, thank you for that.
Councillor Johnson, just a quick question, thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I'll make it quick. Thanks, Margaret. Just, you mentioned in your submission about the risks of having key facilities like the library in private ownership. So what do you see as the risks of that?
Well, public-private, I think, developments have a mixed history in New Zealand. But also, it's such a core facility for the city. You know, what if a private developer finds that, you know, they have to put the rent up, or I don't know, it depends what sort of arrangement you've got, but to be at the behest of the private sector in this space seems to be very problematic.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your submission there, Margaret.
Thank you,
And
Councillor.
we'll deliberate at the end of May. Thank you very much. Right, the next submitter is submission number 1064, and it's Tom Senting and Brett Hill. If you'd like to come forward, please. Welcome.
Is it the right button?
Yeah, you know, you're live because it's it's showing red, so you're okay.
Tēnā koutou, good evening, Mr Chair, Your Worship, councillors and respected others. My name is, thank you for this opportunity to speak. We're only going to speak on the rates review tonight. My name is Brett Hill, and my my collaborator here is Tom Senting. We've only had a rough process putting this together, unfortunately, so our apologies. We hopefully will be better prepared in future, but we wanted to do our little bit to at least get in the saddle, so to speak, and exercising our participation in local body politics about something we feel very strongly about. We, putting our challenges aside and trying to address what we can work out with our rushed preparation seems to be the main issues, is that we understand that in the current economic environment that there will be rates increases, and that on the rushed look that we've had, an 11.5% increase doesn't seem totally unreasonable. However, those same economic circumstances cut both ways, of course, and we're concerned about what we understand appears to be a stupendous increase over something like, at least quoting what we can read from the council stuff online, that there's going to be something like an additional $1,000 a year over the next 30 years cost to ratepayers, and most people we've talked to can't even work out, particularly in the current environment, how we could manage that, let alone, in our circles anyway, let alone how, if that was to be ongoing. So yeah, that's the first thing. The next thing is that, the more specific to the submission we made, is that with regards to the rates review, we don't really like any of the options, but the one that we do reluctantly go with, we only do so reservedly, as I will hopefully explain reasonably clearly. We think it appears that it isn't consistent and therefore isn't fair to charge rates on buildings / improvements on a property unless we can be absolutely sure of their current value. The current system also appears to place different rating values on identical buildings or improvements depending on which area they're in. This to us seems like valuing a car differently depending on where it's parked. But even if the value of a building or its improvements is somehow fairly assessed and up to date, we wonder how relevant it is when really we think it should be how much cost the council incurs servicing a property. So for example, it makes more sense to us, in our non-expert opinions, to charge per person residing on a property perhaps, or maybe how many cars are registered to that address. Therefore, if we had to choose from the three options that were put forward, we would reluctantly prefer the current system, but that being done with adjustments along the lines of what we've just been putting forward. Thank you.
Do you have any other comments at all?
No, that's all for now. Yeah, thanks.
Okay. Councillor Dennison.
Thank you for your submission and speaking to it tonight. So, if we were to go with one, can you give us a steer on where you think, even though I take the analogy of a car being parked in a different driveway, it's worth more. But can you give us a steer where you think we should land on that, though?
Like I say, we not exactly 100% as prepared as we'd like to be. Do you have
Right, okay.
Any thoughts on how you might sort of frame that, Tom?
In regards to the...
Yeah, if you just press the button or the... Yeah, thank you.
In regards to the main idea, or in regards to the one of the three options that we want?
Yeah, we're proposing three options, so probably getting a steer around that.
So,
happy to do some transitioning into either one of them.
So the current, from what I understand, the current way is based on land value, which is a fixed item, fixed value that doesn't change. However, a building does not necessarily represent what a person can afford or can't afford, as well as how do you determine the value of an improvement. Around the city, there are plenty of properties which have houses built at the same time, the same style. However, in one area, the improvement is valued at about 100,000, in another area at 200,000, and it does not make sense. It's not possible that the same house would be worth more because of where it's built.
Yeah, I follow your thinking on that. Happy to accept that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Just getting back to your question, I'm just wondering, like, and this is the stuff we came up with off the top of our heads, admittedly, but would it be potentially more problematic for a council to service a property if there were more people on that property using the sewage system and the water reticulation and everything else that the council provides? Would that possibly be a reasonable basis to answer your question of maybe as a place to start, or maybe if you've got to pay for all the upkeeps of the roads and wear and tear, say you've got a trucking fleet there which apparently does some stupendously greater percentage of damage to the local roads than what somebody's car does, maybe they pay more rates. I mean, this is just shooting from the hip, admittedly, but I'm just wondering, might that, put that back to you, might that be...
It's a rhetorical question, obviously.
Yeah, I'll accept that as an open question, because as in the hearings, we can't give...
Oh, no, fair enough, that's cool, mate. Yeah, thank you.
Councillor Naylor.
Yeah, thank you both for making this submission. There's just an area under community facilities question in your written submission that I just wanted clarified. You've supported most of the facilities in there, but at the last comment that you've made is as long as it's financially viable, it's okay to go ahead. But when high rates increases are on the horizons, I'm not sure it's the right move. So it's just a little bit ambiguous. I'm just interested if you could clarify whether you support at this time the all of these developments or not.
You had some comments about that, yeah.
Based on the increases, then it seems that it's okay. I mean, I'm not into finance and all that, but when we're looking at investing tens of millions of dollars into cultural buildings, as important as they are, when we have a potentially increase of $1,000 a year on waters, is it really a priority at this stage to invest the money in the new arena, for example, when currently it might not be 100% fit for purpose, but it does serve a purpose until at least a year or two when we know what's happening with the current economic situation.
So I'm hearing perhaps you don't support it at the moment. Is that what I'm hearing?
At the moment, we still don't have the increase of $1,000 a year on the water. It's a potential increase. But if this increase does come, then might be feasible to pull back on luxury to a point and invest more in the necessity.
Thank you. Yep, that's
Just
helpful.
further to that point, so a major concern that I haven't voiced, sorry, but like a real basic concern for us is our ability to pay rates. And so whilst we would dearly love, like we believe in supporting culture and most of the noble things that the council does, we passionately do support those heritage things. Yeah, we do. But at the end of the day, if you're running the risk of defaulting on your rates because you can't afford it, well, that's the sort of thing that we'd say reluctantly that rather than the nice to haves, which are often needs, not just nice to haves, but yeah, the bigger need is for the people to be able to keep on affording, to be able to pay their rates, to be able to service what the council can.
Yeah.
Thank you
very much.
Councillor Zabellan, quick question.
Yeah, quickish. Thank you both. I'm interested in your comments about the market value. About how rating would be fairer if it was based on usage of and connection to services. And we've heard lots of views, but some submitters have said that the sort of size of a dwelling might be a better indicator of usage to services than just land alone. I'm wondering on your thoughts on that idea.
Having a bigger house does not necessarily mean you can either afford more or that you put more pressure on the system. Having a couple living in a 5-bedroom house will not put as much pressure as a family of 5 in a 2-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom house. Many people bought houses before prices went up. For example, I bought my house at less than 200,000. Now it's valued at 600. Does not mean I can afford more because my house is worth that much more. Now, yes, the value does go up. It has to take into consideration. But when my improvement of the house on the land was about 100,000 4 years ago, and now this same house is worth 300, it's proportionate, not logical. And the house in another area has went up from 70,000 to 100,000. Yet, if I want to build a house with a contractor, it will cost me the same to build regardless of where I build.
Great. Thank you. That's very helpful.
Great. Thank you, Brett and Tom, for your submission and for coming in this evening. And we'll take your comments to deliberation at the end of May. Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you all. Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Right, our next submitter is submission number 1081, Mandy Shaw. If you want to come down to the table, please. Welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for your time this evening. My name is Mandy Shaw, and I reside in Bunnythorpe. I am part of the Greater Bunnythorpe Community Committee, but these are my views and not those necessarily of the committee. I've been living in Bunnythorpe for the past 3 years. When I purchased the property, the conditions of where I bought was within 20 kilometres of the CBD of Palmerston North. The Bunnythorpe community has a great community spirit. We have strong local business support. We can walk to buy fresh produce on Saturday mornings down at the roundabout. We have soup and connection nights, and I wholeheartedly back the community planning exercise. I've already given feedback on Utanganui, and I purchased our property knowing KiwiRail was coming, so I'd be quite naive to think change and growth wouldn't happen. In saying that, I do urge you to protect the community that we already have. I support all of the initiatives that help Bunnythorpe and bring our community up to the same experience or standard as, say, Milson or Kelvin Grove. Kind of like the water quality, like the water pressure or the water colour or the water hardness. At the moment, the water pressure is so bad that if we had a fire out in Bunnythorpe, we do not have the pressure to put that fire out. Not only is it a health and safety risk, but it's a little bit of a reputational risk for the council, given that we've raised this a few times. The watercolour is brown, and flushing has been happening, and we've really appreciated the effort in that space. However, it isn't fixed. When I lived in Milson, we'd have to descale our jug every 6 months. Now we have to descale our jug every 3 weeks. So also when looking at the roading, like Pinity, please go around our community. Protect the safety of our children and our elderly. We want to be able to walk to the dairy no matter which part of Bunnythorpe we're in. We want to be able to walk to school or safely bike to school, and ensure that we can get to friends' places safely as well. Rates are already so high, and when you're making your choices, please consider whether we need to do it all right now or if we can hold off. And lastly, when making decisions regarding Bunnythorpe, please come and consult the community, help us protect the community. Change is much easier to accept if change is done with the community instead of being done to the community. It's a nice, short and sweet one. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Mandy. Perhaps if I just start the questions off, can you just perhaps give us an indication of or your experience of the traffic issues in Bunnythorpe at the moment?
So at the moment we, today it feels like the trucks are a little bit less because they're going around us with the railway road being closed off for a little bit. But when that wasn't happening, we have really big trucks come on through. I can't safely bike with my son to the school because going through that roundabout is quite horrendous. It's really dangerous. You see big double cab, is that what they're called, trucks, make it quite dangerous and sit over top of that roundabout as well. I've got the safety of the roading down by the cemetery. We have quite a decent boy racer problem, and there's a 100k sign that is just chilling out in the middle of the road where it transitions between 50 kilometres and 100 kilometres. So it does mean that people speed up down that one as well. But yeah, we do have quite a lot of trucks come through.
Thank you. Councillor Naylor.
Thanks, Mandy, for your submission. My question relates to the Awapuni Community Library Hub and your comments in the written submission there. You talk about if the land had not already been purchased, your comments would have been different. And I'm just interested to know what your comments would have been on that if the land hadn't already been purchased.
I probably would have supported the land not being purchased if it hadn't already happened. I do understand that the Awapuni's got a decent amount of growth happening at the moment, but we have beautiful facilities in the city centre as well, with great bus networks that can take us there. So just improving the current library, I would have thought may have been sufficient.
Thank you. And you've gone on to say that you prefer the land be used for housing. And I'm just interested, can you be more specific? Are you meaning council social housing or sold for commercial housing, or what sort of housing did you have in mind?
Yeah, council social housing would be great. What we've got up and coming at the moment looks beautiful and really helps the wider communities of Palmerston North.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Barrett.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Mandy. Just we've had a few submissions during the day and a few more coming around the shared path plan between Fielding and Palmerston North, which goes via. And just wondered if you had any views around that or how you'd like it to work out.
Yeah, I support that incredibly. Our family bikes quite a lot. We already use a lot of the facilities, especially down by the Riverway. We have family over in Fielding, and we absolutely would be using that. At the moment, we would have to load our bikes onto the car, drive to the safest point, and then bike into Fielding. So we would absolutely love that, and especially if it continued on into Palmerston North, it would mean that those bike rides are a lot easier and safer for us.
Cool, great, thank you. Madam Chair, sorry, Mr. Chair. Still on the last meeting.
It has been a long day. Thank you, Mandy, for coming in and seeing us this evening and for your submission, and we'll take that into account when we go through our deliberations. Thank you.
Right, thanks everyone. Good night.
Right, our last submitter for this evening is the Manawatu Rugby Football League, Lawrence Irahi, and that's submission number 497. And we've also got...
Good evening, everybody. I'm Lawrence Irahi. I'm an ex-serviceman, also an employee of the Palmerston North City Council, who works over in Manawatu District as a building controls officer. However, I'm talking on behalf of the Manawatu Rugby League community in regards to the current general manager for the sport and the code. As you are aware, you've received our submission in regards to supporting anything to do with Sport Manawatu. However, we also as an organisation wanted to provide some considerations in regards to the current facilities that we use in Palmerston North. With Manawatu Rugby League, we mainly use, we are an outdoor sports, but we mainly use Coronation Park as our main facility. We re-established the junior program in 2016, and from that time we've now reached around about 1,200, just under 1,300 participants in rugby league through girls and boys, and also through the adult program as well. We service the area from as far as Taihape, Whanganui, all the way down to Otaki, and then across to Wairarapa and finally in Dannevirke. So we've built over the last few years a good solid base of a community. However, one of the biggest issues that we have now is the facilities that we use in regards to the health and safety around our kōtiro and our young girls being involved in the sport. So I've been in the space, as I said, as a player, administrator for over 25 odd years. After I left the army, after 25 years of service, and then got involved in the community recreational sports avenue. The last time I've seen Coronation Park or any other park, excluding Bill Brown, 8 years, I've seen no facilities being upgraded to an extent. With Coronation Park, they gave a nice paint job for Manawatu Rugby League, but they negated to look at the Matthew Ave pavilion, which is currently being sorted out as we speak as well. So our submission, as I said, is to support anything Sport Manawatu. However, some considerations around the facilities, changing shed lighting, parking is one of the biggest issues. Just recently, yesterday, I just received the email from the parking wardens about parking on double lines, but that was rugby, not rugby league, because we play on Sundays when nobody works. So that is probably a lot of the main issues that we deal with every week within our program is the parking and the facilities. Not enough changing rooms to service or support our kōtiro and our young girls in the game. And I'm not just advocating for Coronation Park, I'm also advocating for Bill Brown, Monred Park, Ongley, etc. Because those are the biggest parks that we have in Palmerston North. And we also have been approached by other NSOs around hosting tournaments such as the Tamariki Māori Rugby League tournament that hosts 92 teams, which brings in around about 5,000 participants, plus the rest of the group that comes with supporting those teams. We've also been in talks with the International Masters Rugby League as well about hosting certain events here in Palmerston North. However, with the current infrastructure or facilities that are on offer, that is probably not going to happen in any time soon. One of the things about the CET arena proposal is that for an organisation as Manawatu, we are all volunteers. There's no one in our organisation that is paid to run the sport. I've been running this as a volunteer for the last 8 years, or because I'm a passionate person that likes to provide opportunities for our tamariki and our rangatahi, etc. So probably a consideration is having members from the community on the committee when these decisions are made about upgrading various facilities in the parks and reserve space, or having a representative from Sport Manawatu on there supporting all codes. And the reason why I say that is that the other 5 points that were brought up in regards to the cultural, the marae up on Porkchop Hill and all that stuff, from our perspective, that's a cultural, more cultural significance than it is relating to sports and recreational. If we were to hold an international event, then that is possibly an educational avenue that could be used in that space, but it doesn't really affect the sports and recreational area and that. But other than that, that is all I wanted to talk to you, to the committee about, and the elected members, and yeah, see what happens from here.
Thank you very much, Lawrence. And Kerry, you're there in support online. Have you got any further comments?
Yes, I am here, and no, I don't have any further comments at this time. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Probably just one question for me, Lawrence, is just in terms of you got 1,300 participants in the rugby league fraternity locally. Can you tell me what the male-female split is of that? Because you've talked about facilities, I guess, upgrades.
Well, currently at the moment with the percentage, we're looking at around about 70-30 at the moment. Over the last 24 months, we've had an increase of 6-year-olds, 8-year-olds, 10-year-olds, up to 14-year-old girls participate in rugby leagues thus far. We've got a couple of girl teams, full-blown girls teams, travelling away to the Māori tournament, because it's a PR, pretty much a PR and a development opportunity for our girls in that space.
Great, thank you. Councillor Dennison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You mentioned about the changing rooms in at Coronation Park, so they're not fit for your needs. What you'd be looking for, ideally, for changing rooms? So would they be built within one of those pavilions that exist already?
So currently on the park, there's down Matthews End, there's a couple of changing sheets. That's the same down at the Tremaine end. We currently have this year 65 plus teams from 6-year-olds all the way through to under 16s. At times we've had to chuck up pretty much gazebos to support the changing facility. To be honest, yeah, there's only 4 changing rooms down there, and you can only control as much as you can on the day than what you can do through the whole season.
Okay, and would that be the same for the opportunity to host these national tournaments for the NSO? That you'd need, that's the showstopper, it seems like, is the facilities, like the changing room capacity.
Yeah, definitely, because if you're looking at hosting 96 teams from all around New Zealand, I don't think 4 toilets or 4 changing rooms are going to be suffice, especially around 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds and 12-year-olds, etc. And then you've got the general public in regards to using the 2 toilets on either pavilion that are 90% always locked or blocked.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, thank you. Look, we've got time for one more question just from Councillor Meehan online.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Lawrence, a little while ago there was an issue with the doors on the changing rooms down at Coronation. Have those doors been put back on?
Yes.
They are. Okay, thank you. That's all for me, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Lawrence, for coming in to see us and presenting to us. Your submission will be taken into account when we deliberate in late May. Thank you.
Ka pai, pōmari.
Right, we have the New Zealand Rugby Museum, Stephen Berg, Director, and that's submission number 1115. If you want to come forward, please. Thank you. The lucky last for the evening. Sorry. Yeah, the right-hand button.
And do you have to hold it down while you speak?
No. Just let it go and talk. No, you've just press it again. You're right.
Yeah. Thank you all for the opportunity to submit to the long-term plan. As you heard, I'm Stephen Berg, the Director of the Rugby Museum. Sport to the Australian and the New Zealander is a big part of who we are. According to the Australian Sports Foundation, 4 out of 5 Australians agree that sport's a significant part of Australian culture. Likewise, Sport New Zealand reports that 86% of New Zealanders agree that high-performance sport both helps instill a sense of pride in our country and contributes to our national identity as New Zealanders. With 2 sports-mad countries right next door to each other, our sporting rivalry has almost become the stuff of legend. Kiwis love nothing more than to beat Aussies. It's like little brother beating up the big brother. And rugby is one of those sports where we hold the upper hand for the most part. The first touring team to New Zealand was actually a rugby team from New South Wales in 1882. And the first tour by a New Zealand team was to Australia in 1884. Well, we're coming around to 150 years in 2032. Lord Bledisloe gave a cup, the Bledisloe Cup. It was introduced for a rugby competition between Australia and New Zealand in 1932. So again, 2032 will be the centenary of the centennial of the Bledisloe Cup. Personalities and stories are all over the place with the Australia-New Zealand rugby rivalry. I've written about a couple in my submission. Another one, Des Connor. People might not have heard of him today. Born and brought up in Brisbane, Queensland. He was a Wallabies halfback in the 1950s, playing against the All Blacks. He moved to New Zealand in 1960. What do you know? Made it into the All Blacks in 1961. In fact, he even captained the All Blacks on a tour to Australia. When he retired, he went back to Australia and coached the Australian team. And in 1968, almost overcome New Zealand with some tactical nous.
and a dodgy referee decision, according to him. As we wrote in the submission, there are so many stories. Another one, the Sevens rivalry between the women, Blackfern Sevens and the Australian Sevens women. Amazing games, the 2018 Commonwealth Games gold medal. Went to extra time. Kelly Brazier got the ball, ran the length of the field to score possibly one of the all-time great gold medal wins. The Rugby Museum's had experience in taking exhibitions overseas as well as having travelling exhibitions. We've got a good local team here. We've experienced. We can create something. We believe that an exhibition would be a neat feel-good story. It will enhance Palmerston North. It's something that has the potential to promote our city and create new links and networks. There may be an opportunity to engage with an Australian museum as a partnership. Obviously, we're going to have the Australian side of the story. I'd love to tell the Australian side, but they probably wouldn't like it as much. So I'm not going to go on too much. Our submission is that we'd like $20,000 seed funding to come up with the plan for a touring exhibition.
Thank you, Stephen. We've got a few questions in the queue. Councillor Bowen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Stephen. I thought you weren't coming in tonight and then suddenly you appeared. So $20,000 seed funding. What can you tell us about the potential scale of what this might turn into by reference to, is it balls, bullets and boots at 400k, or is it, the 95,000 try for all? Where does this sit in the scheme of things?
Yeah. So that is always to do with the budget. So it's how much potential money we can make. We cut the museum, cut it, but we build the exhibition to suit the budget, right? So we start out, dream big, and if we don't get the funding that we need, we make it the size that the funding fits. We've been pretty amazed with balls, bullets and boots. We had 17 different funders, for example, to raise that.
So I suppose what I'm asking is what's in it for you? Like what's the return on investment?
Yeah, we don't get a return on investment. We do this for the people. We do this for to get rugby stories out there. Yeah.
And how will that promote Palmerston North?
Because it's made in Palmerston North, and we put made in Palmerston North. Rugby exhibition went to Japan. A city councillor from Sasha Haskell, I don't know if you guys know Sasha, she went to Japan, and alongside the exhibition was a panel that promoted Palmerston North, and yeah, I guess can't get better than that.
Well, what outcomes did we get from that, Stephen?
Maybe someone else might be able. I didn't. Okay. Sasha would have that.
Long gone.
Sorry.
Okay. Thanks, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Mayor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks, Stephen, and the first 15 behind you. It's good to see you coming out at night.
Thanks.
Look, along the same lines as Councillor Bowen. So this would be something that will obviously have a bit of digital, would have a bit of physical, the tech, touch and that sort of stuff as well.
Yeah, I'd love to work along the stuff that we've already worked with Ink Creative, get some great footage, get ways that people can interact with the exhibition as well. Maybe, pasting them into Wallabies teams for team photos they can send back to each other and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I remember with the Japanese one, Toyota were a big part of that, and that was one of the outcomes, was the connection with Toyota Japan, but also Toyota New Zealand. The Australian High Commission could probably play a role in this for you as well.
We'll certainly be investigating partnerships with Australian rugby and Australian museums.
Great. Well done. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Stephen, for your submission and for coming in this evening and with the front row. Oh, sorry, beg your pardon. Great. Okay, cool.
I meant to ask it before, sorry, so thank you for your indulgence, Chair. Have you had any conversations with Te Manawa about supporting the brief development?
Yep. We've, our relationship with Te Manawa is very strong at the moment, and we've talked to them about tendering for part of that. Well, you know, obviously, given that we're successful tonight, yeah, they're aware.
So you're thinking that you would put it out to tender and then they would apply and then we would give you the money and you would give them the money?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that.
Yep. Commercial relationship.
I'll try and close this off now, Stephen. So thank you very much for your submission and for coming in. I don't think I have any more questions in the queue there. So we'll deliberate at the end of May and take your comments into account. And thank you for
everybody. You're all looking amazing. Who would have thought you've been here for so many hours? Eh?
Good on you. Well done. Good way to finish. Okay, so that's the last submission for this evening. So thank you to elected members and submitters for coming in and giving us your time and your views. We will adjourn the meeting until 0900 or 9 a.m. tomorrow morning. And if I could just get perhaps the Deputy Mayor to close formally with a karakia, please.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair, o tira tēnā tātou, to those who are in the room and or watching us, ngā mihi, greetings as we conclude this part of our day. Kua mutua mātou mahi, our work here is finished for the moment, mō te wā. Manakitia mai mātou katoa, good health and blessings upon us all, o mātou hoa, our friends, o mātou whānau, our families, ai o ki te rangi, peace to the universe. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora, and also I should acknowledge administrators and staff. Sorry? Yes, you can. Thank you.